Okay, Will, for this episode, we're going to look at male power fantasies, which should really appeal to the dudes out there in our audience.
Fantasies, huh?
But as depicted in film. And
Okay.
so we have the three Bs. The three Bs we're going to be basing our examination on. They are bears, beats, battle. No, that's not right. Bond, Bourne, Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, who is, what reference is that? You know.
Well, I just want to call attention to your first reference, which was The Office, because you're about to say Battlestar Galactica, and we didn't get to it. So I just want to backtrack for half a second just to make sure we understand what that was. And then you were just asking me to finish another B. And what was this one you were asking? You were asking me to finish
Bond, Bourne, Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga being a reference to
John Wick.
I mean, you can call him Baba Yaga. Okay, John Wick, right.
Yes.
It didn't flow as well when I said Bond, Bourne, Wick. But Bond, Bourne, Baba Yaga, Bears, Beats,
Battlestar Galactica. And it actually should have began with maybe Bob the Builder, just to get, I mean, he's a hero too. Let's not forget.
He is.
That man has put in so much work. He doesn't even ever take off his work outfit. That's like
male power tool fantasy, maybe.
Yes, in some sick fashion. He definitely could be. Yeah.
All right. So we use the word fantasy. People get a little upset. They get a little weirded out, right? But power fantasy is that as men are aspiring to these ideals, to the ideal of what it is to be a man, we write these stories or we film these films. And we invest in it, and the filmmakers intentionally create characters that are designed to attract men to the film, to the to the output. And so, if we rewind all the way back to the 1960s, we have Sean Connery's James Bond, and people disagree about who the best Bond is. We're going to use Sean Connery's Bond because all the other Bonds were lesser Bonds.
Okay.
In my opinion, although I didn't come around until the 70s, and so it was all rewind.
Right.
So James Bond, 1960s, Sean Connery. We're going to use Sean Connery because as they evolve, there's sort of evolutions of Sean Connery's Bond. By the time you get to Daniel Craig's Bond, interesting fun fact, the Bourne movies had come out. They were looking for something sleeker, a little more action-packed, and so Daniel Craig's Bond is really a Bourne Bond. Or Born Again Bond, if you like.
Okay.
At any rate, so we're going to look at the Bond of the 60s and 70s, early 80s. Then we're not going to do too much film, analysis here. We're just going to look at these men as archetypes. The second is Jason Bourne. Hopefully, everybody knows about Bourne. He forgets who he is.
Or hopefully, everybody doesn't know who he is. That's the point.
Well,
right.
Okay. Well, we hope that they do know because we want them to have that prior knowledge so that we can unpack these narratives.
Okay, so that they do know that he's not who they shouldn't know who he is. They need to know that they shouldn't know who he is.
And hopefully they don't have memory loss the way he had a memory loss and forgotten who Jason Bourne is.
Correct.
And then the last, of course, is John Wick, known to all the 13-year-old boys on the face of the planet as the vengeance-seeking, headshot, killing, fiend of the most recent, the 2020s, let's just say. So we go from 1960s, 70s to early 2000s to, more recent history, and we see an evolution. So I want to take a look at each of these characters and how they kind of embody in some ways the kind of the male power fantasy, which, interestingly enough, is how we as men sometimes cope with our insecurities, our feelings of inadequacy, and how we look at and fixate on these characters, these, icons, these heroes, as a way of kind of dealing with all that and figuring our place in the world.
Right.
And then what I want us to do is I want us to take a look at how maybe if these characters were real, or if they embodied, let's say, my own quest for meaning or for significance in the world, what is it that faith gives to us as men, but really as human beings, to help us, to confront and overcome our insecurity? So that's our episode. Bond, Bourne, Baba Yaga. You ready, Will?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Okay, good. All right. So picture James Bond, martini sipping, baccarat playing, Bond, James Bond.
Got it.
Do your best Sean Connery impersonation. You
yeah,
got it.
I think it's fine. Well, I got on my end. It would be Sean Connery. That would be my that would be my impression.
All right,
limited impression, though. Very limited impression.
Shaken, not straight.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's a limited. Yeah, we'll go with limited.
I'm a limited person.
What? You notice that from Bond to these other two, like sex plays a much bigger part in Bond's mystique than it does for Bourne or John Wick. Like by the time Bourne comes along, there's a love interest. She's around for like 15 minutes, and she's like killed off in the second of the trilogy.
Like any other 2000s love interest, minimal.
And John Wick, what
Zero.
happens to his love interest?
I mean, it's already dead. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, she's dead before the film starts.
Right.
So obviously Sean Connery is looking to conquer his world. He looks to conquer women, he looks to conquer the enemy, he's looking to conquer his own fears and overcome. So Connery's about conquering his world. This was maybe, of the Cold War and the fears of, the aggressors, the unknown aggressors out there and the known ones. This was how we as men, we dealt with our insecurities and what he does is it's not about who he is because we don't know his backstory. We don't know who this guy is, right? That he's an orphan. It's more about what he does. So he gets his significance through his job, right? License to kill, right? He can go anywhere, do anything. He's the spy and, the ladies, he leaves them in his wake. Now contrast it with Bourne. Now, you've seen the Bourne movies, Matt Damon?
A while back, but yes.
A while back, yeah. So the three main ones, and I actually read the book. I read the books. I read the Robert Ludlum books, and I was fascinated by them. So when they came out in the movies, I was like, oh, this is so awesome. I love those movies. I love the Bourne movies. Mm-hmm. I like them more than the Bond movies, mostly because I think Bourne embodies my kind of like ideal man. Like, he may be confused, and he is confused. He doesn't really know who he is.
Like most
He's
men.
trying to find his way in the world.
Right.
Like most men. Yeah, all right, present company excluded. And, but he's extremely efficient, right? And nobody can stop him, right? Do you know who that is? That's Jason Bourne. And his name, by the way, JB. So there's a name thing going.
Yeah, not bad. I'll award it.
We got James Bond, Jason Bourne, Johnny B. Okay, so I think there's a definite, there's a resonance.
Hopefully
here.
not a love triangle, but yes.
What? Not a love triangle. Thanks for that. Yeah. So, but for him, this is about him trying to become a stable human being, and he just wants everybody to leave him alone.
Right.
And now we come to John Wick. Your personal favorite.
Yes, without a doubt.
Between the Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
And like, why? What is it?
Well,
first of all, tell us the story of the Baba Yaga.
Yeah. So John Wick, he's an unassuming person at first, and then you find out that he is a cold-blooded assassin. And the only reason you find this out is because people tried to mess with him. So he just experienced his wife passing away, and he's like looking on at these memories, and she sends him a dog. To say like, I'll always be with you kind of thing. And then these people, just these morons who just want to, screw up somebody's life, basically, don't know who they just messed with. And they break into his house to try to steal his car and they kill his dog. So then he goes on this like vengeance route of like, I'm going to literally take down everybody that was in this whole organization that you find out he was a part of, this whole underground assassin thing. But again, unassuming, really calm, collected,
very zen,
kind of like Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, takes a beating. It's not this perfection. I mean, a lot of the movie he's limping. And so, and
bloodied.
Like, right. And in the Bond movies, he was near an explosion or the craziest thing just ever got shot at or whatever. And then, the next scene, his hair's done up and he's got a drink. It's a totally different deal. Like John Wick is like
nothing touches him.
His wounds carry with him through the entire film. So by the end, he's literally crawling on the floor and still killing people anyway. But
yeah. So if let's say Bond is trying to conquer the world, Bourne is trying to escape the world because the world's after him, right? This was after our 9/11 and our fear of mistrust of institutions, and institutions are really out there to get you. You can't really trust anybody. He's out to escape the world. And then John Wick is interested to pull the world down, or at least the part of the world,
or even set the world right in a way, like in his realm, like you're paying for your sin,
so
kind of thing.
Punishing these people right over here, and all the people are dancing in the nightclub, and they're not touched by it. He just manages to make his way through the crowd and only kill the bad guys. Right, so he's like vengeance personified. Yes. So I mean, is this what we aspire to be? Is that what, did my parents' generation, did they want to conquer the world? Well, I mean, the arms race, during the Cold War and the evil empire out there, and spy movies embodied our fear of the enemy and our desire to conquer, the bad guys. And then after 9/11, it was really more about, can we trust anybody, like their side or our side? I mean, think about the number of conspiracy theories, even just about 9/11. That are still alive here all these years later. Yeah, I mean, and then nowadays, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, you have a totally different kind of route because it's almost like in the Bond era, it was like those things were conquerable, if you want to look at it that way, or at least conquerable to a degree, so that because if I walked up in a bar right now and tried to pull a James Bond on somebody, they'd be like, "Ew, get away from me, creep!" Like it would just be, it wouldn't fly. Back then, it was more like that would be something normal, and like now, it's like that's not even on the table as much anymore. Yeah, right. It's not even on the table much anymore in that way. It's not treated the same. We're not. It's more about like justice, and like that's why you're getting this whole realm of like superhero movies, this whole like influx of all the the comic book heroes, and then John Wick, which is also a comic. It's in the same realm of sort of like there's a bad and there's a good, and like I'm just gonna conquer and like or seek justice on the or vengeance, like the Punisher or something like that, or an anti-hero.
So you got to definitely go on the anti-hero route, because remember, John Wick's, he's one of them. Right. He was a villain. He was the guy.
They remind him of that the whole movie.
For money.
Right.
He was called the boogeyman because nobody was safe from him. Right. And so he tries to get out, but the darkness just won't let him go. Right. He's got to be punished for his sins. So what does he do? He turns his vengeance back on the people who won't let him go. He goes for 4 movies. Right. 4 whole movies.
I know. Amazing.
Going up. And the interesting thing, the last movie, there's this very picturesque scene. It goes on for forever, where he's trying to literally go up the staircase to finally kill the final bad guy. This is like, it's like picturing his 4-movie quest to go up the food chain to finally kill the people behind the people behind the people behind the people who. And once he gets the last guy, then what happens? What happens once he kills the last guy? At least in the movie, as far as we know.
Well, he was also wounded, unfortunately, which I was very upset about. So apparently he's like, goodbye. And now they're, setting up the stage for someone else to take over, which I'm always, I don't appreciate that so much. I didn't love the ending of that whole series, by the way. My favorite is probably the third one out of all of them. Just the, because John Wick, it's not just like alone in its modern self. It does take from a lot of films. It takes from a lot of kung fu movies, takes from a lot of,
gun fu is the term. Yes.
That have gone before, so it's not all like this new invented thing. But to even think about those kind of themes back in like a Bond era, like where they wouldn't even know to make those themes. No one would go around like seeking vengeance for somebody for killing their dog that their wife that died from cancer assumedly gave. Like that's not
nobody would go to that movie.
That's not a 60s storyline. Yeah, and also no one would go to that because that wasn't as seen as that would be seen as something like more like a super like out there film, like really like, oh, that's like a cult weird, like nowadays it's like this is the norm. The anti-hero is the best, or the guy that just like destroys everybody on screen. I also love but I do love how the John Wick movies they at least make the timing feel, and in the editing, like the fight's actually happening and there's not so many cuts. I love the because then the choreography stands out. It's amazing, some of these scenes. And then, some of the Bourne films, I think the Bourne movies, if even some of the later scenes where the action is really taking place, so many cuts, boom, 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 back to the room, back to him, back to the room, back to, it's like, it's a totally different style. And then the Bond movies too, I guess you could have the same thing too, because they were trying a bunch of trickery too, and trying to get these, cool explosions, whatever, enemies, the whole deal. Or, but it was very like heroic still, and they were probably borrowing even further back, like John Wayne or like the, cowboy westerns. So like they were borrowing even further back. But this idea of like how the male role has changed throughout, it's kind of interesting, because the one that I aspire to maybe like be like, oh yeah, I wish I could be that guy, would probably be John Wick. And I don't know if that's just because I'm growing up in this time, because I can appreciate the older movies, but it just doesn't seem, well, obviously none of them are achievable, because I'm not going to go killing, thousands of people.
Thank you for clearing that up for all of us.
No problem. But the Bond stuff doesn't seem realistic. It seems so dated that it's like I can't even identify with it. I can't even.
Well, we have to make clear, like, these are fantasies, and we all grasp that they're fantasies, in the sense that we don't go to the movie and go, oh, I want to grow up and be just like James Bond, or I want to grow up and be just like. Like, they're embodying this escapist.
But you can wish you can like play the role, maybe a little bit, like
aspire to be more like, or just
play the role of like, having the villain to take care of, having, the dame, let's say, that's the woman that's like, oh, James Bond, you're the cool, whatever. Because nobody in John Wick was doing that. There was actually women trying to kill him the whole time. So that's a totally different. It's like, there's nothing. He didn't even have one scene that even alluded to the fact that there couldn't have been a romantic connection whatsoever. It was all, they were all trying to kill him, which is even cooler.
Well, not only is there no romantic connection, but he doesn't aspire to that. Like, it's
he doesn't want it.
Like, he's become this incel, voluntary incel, in the sense that, like, he doesn't need another woman, right? His wife died from cancer, right? And so he's just moved on. Yeah. And I think there is something about that if we could just take that small point and say there's something about that for men these days in the kind of the current culture and environment where men almost aspire to not be controlled by women, but to not even say, I'm not saying all men. I mean, I love my wife. I know you love your wife, but there is something about, like, especially in the kind of the polarization of the sexes that has kind of come into our culture. And the ascendancy of feminism, right? Which I don't have a problem with. I have daughters, and I want them to be strong, powerful women. But I think sometimes there is this male insecurity about their own masculinity. So if they can strip away the need for women, they can escape that fear of being controlled by women. I don't think that's a major theme here. I think it's more about, how do I gain control of the uncontrollable, control of the world, whether it's the East and West, the Cold War of James Bond's era, whether it's the institution versus the individual in Jason Bourne's era, or whether it's the individual versus all of the evil in the world trying to suck the life out of you in the John Wick era. So these are interesting archetypes and interesting, but here's where I want us to turn, because I think, we could look into these stories and leave and everybody go, okay, that's interesting. What do you think, Will? Let's go back and look at each one of these men. So if James Bond wants to conquer the world, what does he need for his soul? If Jason Bourne wants to escape the world, or more properly, escape his past, escape the misdeeds that he's done, what does he need? And then John Wick, this man who's trying to avenge his wife's death, avenge the killing of his dog, and take down all the bad guys all the way to the top. What do they need? Let's take each one and let's work backwards, actually. Let's work, because I think you know John Wick best.
Yes.
So here's John Wick. What does he need for his soul? This is a real human being, God forbid there should ever be a human being that's this lethal and brutal. And there have been some events recently in the headlines, right? So we want to be really clear. We're talking about fantasy. We're not talking about reality.
Right.
Where nobody's aspiring to, like Will said, nobody's aspiring to go out and nobody in this channel. And anybody that does think that these movies embody reality misses the point.
Right.
They're like almost literally comic book characters.
Right.
And so we're talking about John Wick. He's this lethal killing machine. What does he need for his soul? In other words, what do I need if I'm feeling insecure in a world that's full of darkness, full of enemies around every turn? What do I need? And then what do I need for this pain and this grief that I'm carrying with me, that John Wick carries with him throughout 4 movies? What does he need? And what does faith have to offer this guy?
Well, yeah, so he needs, I think peace is what he's seeking. He's seeking also penance in a way, because he's reminded through the movie of the wrongs that he's done. He's met, he comes face to face with the people that he's worked with in the past or has troubled in the past, so he's being reminded of his sins and how he can't escape them. And so they're sort of coming to get him, if you will, or will not leave him alone. He's looking for silence and looking for peace, but also looking for a resolve. So he's just hoping, but the way the movie's crafted is like, he just wants to lay in his bed and go to bed and just have his dog and just have his life. He doesn't want to be disturbed. But in the deeper soul, I think he's searching for peace and also restitution, and then
penance. That's a great word.
And penance, right? Because I think he does feel that. You see the emotion on his face that he's coming to. Some people go to help him in this movie that say like, I shouldn't even be helping you. I don't want to help you because of this, and this, and they bring up some whatever that they were involved in the past. So I think that's what he's truly... Notice
as you're talking about his fixation on the past, whether it's the loss of his wife, the loss of his dog. So that's grief, right? But also his own participation in these evil, in the evil, syndicate or whatever we call it, right?
Right.
I can't remember what the name of the organization is called, but his participation, to escape that, he needs to do penance. How much would faith in God, faith in a good news that says, hey, you can be forgiven for your past, and you can be healed from your grief, and you can have a hope for a future that you can't see because you're so stuck, fixated on the past, so stuck looking in the rearview mirror and fighting the battles of yesterday, that you're not able to step into. And you say, well, what does he have to hope in? What does he have? Well, see, this is where faith comes in, right? Faith is the evidence of things hoped for. Things not yet seen. And so to hope in something is to wait on something. And we, as people of faith, as believers, we don't just believe like the orphan Annie, the sun will come out, bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow, we say, no, we serve a God who is at work in this world, and he is the light bringer. And so we can hope even in the darkness.
And he also is one that would say, in this situation, vengeance is mine, and,
yes, right.
And
I will repay. Hope that God will do it.
I will repay. So at that point, if he did have the peace of that, or he did actually trust in that, knowing that, now that's not easily, I mean, we always seek vengeance in our daily, even in the smallest ways, like, oh, that person said that, I'm going to get, even in the smallest ways, right? But him in the largest way, I would say, I can't exactly say how I would react if someone came in and shot my dog and tried to steal my car. I would say, yes, I wouldn't kill them, but I would be very angry.
Right.
Incredibly angry.
Well, and that's where we remind ourselves that this is it's a fictitious universe with a fictitious character. But there's something about that desire to pay back.
Correct.
And that desire to somehow resolve the sins that have been committed against us in the past, and our powerlessness to do that. It impels us, like you're saying, I want to hurt that person as much as they hurt me. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so he pays it 1,000 times over. Okay, let's go to Bourne.
100%. So let's take Bourne. So Bourne, he doesn't have access to his past. Go ahead.
You take this one.
Yeah, he's the soldier, right? He was the soldier. He was trained to be a weapon for his country, but he lost his memory, and now they're trying to kill him just to control him. And so it's the very people that wanted to train him and use him are now trying to kill him. So he can't trust institutions. He's alone in the world. He only has himself and his love interest gets taken from him. So what is it that Bourne needs to be able to find peace in the world, to be able to find, what is it that faith has to offer to this person who's deeply mistrustful and deeply suspicious and, yes, ashamed and afraid of their past, but just wants to be left alone. Just leave me alone. Everybody leave me alone. What is it that Jason Bourne needs? What do you think?
Well, in the same, I mean, forgiveness, like true forgiveness, to where you don't have to try to escape, like run away from your past. Because if you're truly forgiven and you truly believe that you are forgiven, you will not need to run. There's no need to run.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because we think like, oh, well, yeah, thanks for the forgiveness. I still have to run away, you know, because people don't want to be this close to what they're trying to be forgiven of. Because you can be forgiven of something and it's still right here. And it's like, okay, I still got to run away. But with the Lord's forgiveness, or with faith in that example, this is now vanished. You know, it's like gone. It's cast as far east as from the west, the Bible says. Yep. So that would be offering him true forgiveness, not needing for him to run. And in the same way, he shares a little bit with Wick about just needing peace. So like, please just leave me alone. I just want peace. I just want, you know.
Yes, I do think that because, you know, a huge theme for Bourne is his mistrust, his distrust of people and institutions. We could compare Bourne to the person who's grown up in an institution, whether it's the church or a higher ed or, you know, a corporation or whatever. But let's stick with the church for now. And has been deeply wounded and bruised by people in the church, and therefore is distrusting of institutions, and in particular the church. Right. Just wants to be left alone. What Bourne needs is healing from his hurt, and he needs trustworthy people who are not going to love the institution, but rather they're going to care for him and to do what's right.
And a truth to cling to, like a real truth, not the truth that is then behind the institution, behind all the things that have been hurting him, to not look at the truth through those windows.
Right.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, not a disembodied, ideal of truth, but rather somebody who's willing to say, hey, I know the truth and I'm willing to act toward you with truth and compassion.
He's in a state of, I don't know what the truth is. There's so much mistrust. I don't know what to trust. So yeah, totally.
All right. So now let's round home here and head for James Bond, who, for James Bond, he receives his value through his work, through what he does, like so many men like boomers from the 60s and 70s who had their identity in terms of their conquests, right? They conquered the corporate world, they conquered the opposite sex, and they aspired to conquer the whole world. And then they went through their midlife crises when they got into their 40s and 50s. And it turned out they weren't going to beat the world. Right. The world was beating them down. And so what is it that Bond needs for him to have a sense of peace and to be able to release this relentless pursuit that he has of looking for significance through conquest and through love and sex, frankly? What is it that his generation of hero needs, and what is it that faith can offer him?
Yeah, well, at that point, it's more of a knowing the fact that none of these things will fill you to completeness. So him needing to come to the understanding that the only puzzle piece that it can actually fill the void in our heart of needing complete or feeling complete is God, is Jesus. So it would be, because the problem is after all that conquering, after all that cigarette smoking and your face starts to wrinkle and all that martini drinking and your liver starts to shut down and you are then like, wait, there's nothing left in life. This sucks. Knowing that there's a greater piece to it. Because I don't think that that's his knowledge in these films. Obviously, he doesn't give off that vibe that he even is thinking about it. It's only the here and now in this 2-hour film that matters, right? But I'm sure that there's a moment off screen, if we'll say that way. Not the actor, but you get it. James Bond outside the movie that we're seeing, outside the picture we're seeing, is where he's like Leonardo DiCaprio on the yacht. Yeah, we were talking about like
callback to
kind of just like ago. Just I feel empty.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Because all that
You're
stuff leads
absolutely
to
right. But
emptiness. It leads emptiness to a way. But but go ahead. Go ahead. I know you're on something else.
Let me shade your statement here, because you're right. You're on to the truth. But let's go all the way and deliver the final payoff. So you said God. It's only Jesus. But what about God? What about Christ? And it is the love and acceptance of a Father who loves us.
Yes.
Of a Savior who loves us, and knowing that we are accepted, that we don't have to strive,
right?
To know that we can be accepted, can be significant, or we can be fulfilled in this world. It's not through my accomplishment, and I'm saying this to all my older brothers and sisters in the faith. You know, the Boomer generation who worked really, really, really hard to bring about significance, and their generation now in their upper 70s and 80s, some of them still. In positions of authority, still working really hard to make their mark. And what is it then that gives rest from that pursuit? It really is discovering that regardless of what I've done, regardless of my past, or regardless of what I might do, my significance is found in the fact that I am well and truly loved. So,
and the pressure's off in that regard.
We just solved the problems.
The pressure is
off
to be a hero, because there was already a hero.
Yes.
So the pressure's off. Anyway,
Amen.
Okay.
So, all right. So what about you, viewer? What about you out there in chat world, in YouTube land? Which of these characters do you most connect with? Will likes John Wick. I tend to lean towards Jason Bourne, just in terms of, I don't know, I just really enjoy watching him on screen. I know you're a Wick fan. And just to be clear, anybody, these movies are not for children or young teens. These are for grown-ups. And they are entertaining, but they also say a lot about us, about our culture, and about the stories that we live by, whether we realize it or not. So what do you think your favorite character has to say about you? Share it in the comments. Smack this video with a like. Subscribe for more content. And hey, we're glad you joined us on The Collective, on Patreon, on YouTube, and we'll look to see you in our next episode.